Hey guys, it's Chris, and this is going to be my Westworld Episode 5 review, as well as some Episode 4 stuff as well. I do apologize I missed Episode 4 last week, just ran out of time with all the other stuff going on with The Walking Dead, as well as Game of Thrones. But anyway, this is going to be a combo review. The rabbit hole gets deeper and deeper here in Westworld. We're starting to see a few connections here and there with the Man in Black especially, knowing about this Arnold character, the original partner that apparently was killed, or is he dead? And how in the hell does this damn maze fit into everything? Alright, so quickly let's go over Episode 4 just a little bit, just to kind of connect the dots for Episode 4 and 5 and kind of put together some answers if we can. So last week we had Bernard talking to Dolores again, continuing the conversations. You can see she's really starting to feel emotion, including this episode where she starts to feel something for William, the guy in the white hat. She's starting to understand that she's something different. There's a different world out there. She doesn't quite understand what it is yet, but she's definitely having conversations with this Arnold character, at least in her head. The original programmer who Ford apparently had killed, or somebody had killed. Is he actually dead, or is he at the center of this damn maze somehow? Last week we saw the little girl that had told the Man in Black about the maze. We saw her talk to Dolores last week and tell her about the damn maze, and now Dolores is starting to see the picture of the maze everywhere, so she's being led to it as well. So what's odd to me is we have the Man in Black, who may be human, who may not be human, or who may be an android who thinks he's a human, going after the maze and trying to figure out what's going on. And you also have androids apparently who now are going after and searching for this maze, mainly Dolores at this point. So somebody obviously had this as a plan, to have this maze imprinted on somebody's scalp, where somebody would finally figure out what the hell is going on and what it is and how to get to it and what the hell is in the middle of it. And in the center it looks to be the Vitruvian Man, which is very similar to how they show these androids being created, which of course was Da Vinci's work and the first anatomically correct human being as far as a drawing or sketch. Last week Maeve continued to have dreams where she sees the technicians in masks, and that has become a religious type of thing in this world now. She investigates this a little bit. She sees an Indian tribe coming through. A little kid has created a doll of this figure, which we know are just lab technicians, and apparently some other androids know this as well because they call them shades. Maeve actually remembered last week that they were going to rob the brothel. She knew what they were after as far as the safe, and she of course kept grabbing her abdomen knowing that she had been shot, having memories of that. He talks about the figure in the mask being a shade, and then she actually gets him to cut her abdomen open and finds a slug in there, so now she knows she's not going crazy. And of course in this week's episode she actually wakes up again in the lab, so apparently now she can override any sleep commands and wake herself up at any time, and now she has a few questions. Last week the Man in Black got a few answers. He found the lady with the snake tattoo, which was apparently the little riddle that ended with where the snake lays its eggs. This is the girl that comes into town with the outlaw that Maeve stopped, unrolls all the guns and starts capping everybody. Now last week we had a pretty interesting scene where the Man in Black was on this little hunt to go find the maze, and he runs into I guess another guest, and he says, "Hey, I want to thank you, your foundation literally saved my daughter's life." And then he threatened to kill the motherfucker. So we know at least in the real world he's got to be a very rich man who has some kind of foundation. We're not really sure what he's into yet, or at least he's an android modeled after a guy who has a foundation in the real world and he thinks he's human. But he knows about Arnold. He's asking about Arnold last week, so everybody's starting to figure out who this Arnold character is, or at least knows something about him, knows that he was around 30-something years ago, and perhaps knows that he was killed by Ford or somebody associated with Ford and the company. This new storyline definitely has something to do with it. This new Wyatt character in this storyline, who's apparently a crazed madman that we saw Teddy go after in the last episode. He's definitely being tied into all this somehow, and now that's who the Man in Black is after to get some more answers about this maze. What the hell is this fucking maze? Last week we saw Ford continue to play God in Westworld as he goes in there apparently a lot, and apparently he can just like point at things and make shit happen. He don't even have to have voice commands necessarily. And in this week's episode, as a matter of fact, we saw him speaking to the Man in Black, and he actually confronts Ford about this maze and pulls out his knife, and Teddy immediately grabs his hand, slams the knife into the table. So obviously all these androids have built-in code to protect Ford within Westworld itself. So the shit's getting deep, and also Dolores keeps remembering this damn church, and we saw the steeple there when Ford was out there a couple episodes back. So apparently this church did exist, and this damn maze. What the hell is this damn maze? So this week's episode starts with Ford back in the basement talking to this old android again. Dolores enters this new town with William and Logan, and apparently this is some far off town that's not one of the main attractions in the park because it's full of damn bad people and a lot of damn whores. We see the Man in Black continue his quest for the maze, and he has Teddy with him from this Wyatt storyline, but then he actually kills Lawrence to save Teddy because he needs his blood. Teddy was bleeding out apparently. I guess androids are programmed to shut down when they lose a certain amount of blood, like in real life, because he needs him to find this damn maze. This damn maze is going to be a recurring theme. We have this technician who has grand illusions of being a programmer, and he has a little bird up in the closet that he wants to reprogram. We have an asshat technician who works with him, and I guarantee the asshat's going to be the first one to get killed in the real world. And Maeve may be the one to do it. Dolores keeps having memories of the real world. She keeps getting whispers from this Arnold character, or at least the programming in her head. She's starting to have real emotions for William, and William's starting to really question whether or not she's conscious or not, or whether or not she understands what's going on. Because apparently if you're in Westworld and you talk about the real world and how they're androids and how everything's fake, they're programmed not to really understand what the hell you're talking about. But Dolores actually asks him, what do you mean real world? She's becoming self-aware, and she's damn sure learned how to lie. Ford actually pulls her out and talks to her, and she lies straight to his damn face when he asks her about the last time she spoke to Arnold. And we know for damn sure that he's spoken to her in her head, at least as far as the voices are programming in her head. He's spoken to her very, very recently. Now, one thing I don't understand about this show so far is when we saw Ford talking to Dolores, it seemed to be in the middle of the storyline when Dolores was with William in the new little town, in that storyline that he was following when he went with Logan to become a black cat. So what I'm questioning is, if she's in the middle of that, how in the hell is he pulling her out of that storyline? Because we know they have to physically go get them out of the park. So apparently here we're seeing different timelines at the same time, and they're not going to just pull her out of the storyline in the middle of an interaction with a guest. But we do see this new little adventure in this episode that William is on, and we run into a villain named Elazo, which is actually Lawrence. So to me, this confirms we're seeing different events at different times, because we know Lawrence was just with Ed Harris, the Man in Black. So I definitely think we're seeing different timelines here in this show. And then we see Elsie, who works for Bernard, who is another programmer, or I guess she's under the behavioral department. She's starting to question what the hell's going on with these hosts. She was questioning the one that had his head bashed in, android suicide. She catches one of the technicians who had relations with one of the hosts while it was shut down apparently, and she basically says, you know what, I won't say anything about your necro freak problem as long as you let me examine this guy. And she examines the guy and finds a satellite uplink. So apparently this android who was the Stray in episode 3 and that we thought was carving star constellations was actually transmitting information somewhere. So that tells you there's some outside influence going on, and I definitely think that's connected to Logan's company. They seem to have an interest in buying Westworld or becoming partners in Westworld. So I definitely think there's some kind of industrial sabotage going on here as well. Then we see them in this storyline come across a massive fucking orgy. We get a little bit more backstory on William and his buddy Logan, who are apparently not really buddies at all, but just work together. Apparently he's married to his sister in real life. William's starting to believe that, you know, Dolores has actual feelings. So they're going to be at odds, and they're definitely at odds now, because in the end, he left him to get his ass beat by some androids in the storyline and left with Dolores and jumped on the train, where they ran into Elazo, or Lawrence again, being the smuggler of this particular storyline. Dolores continues to see herself in places. She's starting to kind of lose it and go crazy. But I think this is Arnold basically talking to her, and she's starting to figure out what the hell is going on, and she's starting to want to know what's going on. More importantly, she wants answers to actual questions now, and she wants to find this damn maze like the rest of us. Dolores had actually changed clothes into more like cowgirl style clothes, and now she's walking around strapped. We know a couple weeks ago she could not pull a trigger on a gun, and then she overrode that, and she ends up saving William from some Confederate motherfuckers in the storyline who wanted the nitroglycerin. And I really love the line she said to William. William had asked her, how in the hell did you do that? And she was like, I was able to find a storyline where I'm not the damsel. And then at the end, the nice technician who works with the asshat technician actually brings the bird back to life, so to speak, as far as programming goes. And at that point, Maeve got up off the table and talked to the technician saying, Felix, it's time we had a little talk. So basically, I'm still really confused. I don't know about you. I'm really liking how we were getting some answers, but at the same time, it creates more questions, which of course makes these type of shows really great. We're starting to see a connection here with people who know about Arnold, his old programming in this damn maze, as far as some of the androids and the Man in Black, if he is in fact human. So here's what I think is going on in a nutshell. I think that Arnold was probably killed by Ford, and he knew he was going to be killed because he believed this park should be something completely different. He believed in these things becoming sentient and having rights like real people. Ford sees them as just machines. So I think he had him killed, but he knew that was going to happen, so he left his imprint behind as far as his old programming. And I think that line from Shakespeare of Romeo and Juliet, where Dolores' original father said, "These violent means have violent ends," I think that was the trigger to activate this code within Dolores, who then shared that with Maeve, because we now see that Dolores and Maeve are the main ones that are having questions about the real world and about what they actually are, as compared to, say, Teddy, who's not really as advanced as Dolores as far as him realizing what he really is. So the question remains, what is at the center of this damn maze? What's this maze all about? And why would somebody put that in there in the first place? Because it seems to be that it's something no human would be interested in doing, because it's something about freedom if you find the center. So this maze had to be designed for androids to find the center of it and find some kind of truth, but if Ford's against that, why is he allowing that? Anyway guys, I'll leave it there. A lot more questions than answers, but it is intriguing. And this kind of show, to me at least, it shows you that if you have really good writing, you don't have to have a lot of good epic scenery. Although it is beautiful in Westworld, you don't see a lot of, action, for example, and there are a lot more questions popping up as the rabbit hole gets deeper. They're trying to put some things together for you to keep us hooked and interested. It is a bit confusing with the different timelines I think we're seeing. Anyway guys, let me know what you think in the comments below. What's going on with the man in black? Is he an android who thinks he is human, perhaps modeled after a real guy who owned this corporation? Is he somehow involved with Logan and Williams' company? And what the hell is Ford really up to? And what the hell is this damn maze? And what's at the center of it? So anyway guys, if you dig what I do here, please give me a like and a share. As usual, thank you for all the support. Be sure to subscribe to get everything. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.